Game of the Year, a term thrown around so lightly to describe the best video games to ever exist. With so many outlets out there crowning their own Game of the Year, one entity would emerge to act as a conglomerate of these outlets and crown a unanimous Game of the Year starting in 2014, and that would be the Game Awards. Today I'll be ranking every Game of the Year since the Game Awards started, and I'll be moving chronologically and building the list as we go, while also deciding if the game deserved Game of the Year compared to the other nominees. Also, I've only played like 2 of the 12 games, so this is basically a blind ranking.
The winner is Dragon Age Inquisition.
If you know me, practically any party-oriented RPG is essentially my 7th layer of hell, unless it's Pokemon. So it won't come to a surprise that Dragon Age Inquisition wasn't my cup of tea in the slightest. Being the first ever Game of the Year and the 3rd mainline installment in the series, I had never played a Dragon Age game before this, and I don't think I ever will again. Now I know BioWare's whole thing is super detailed party-based RPGs with insane customization, but this just wasn't for me. It's a complete and utter skill issue, or you could even go as far as to say an intelligence issue, because I can just never wrap my head around these games. And we do have 2 more to talk about that I have vastly different opinions on that worked out for me much more than this did. But the combat actually isn't turn-based and more so focuses on cooldown and proccing abilities within your party with one another, which you have to do in real time, which was really stressful to me actually. And the way you progress the main story is by doing side quests that give you power that you then cash in to start mainline missions or unlock new areas. To me, it was just an ungratifying grind fest, especially because most of the quests were literally just go talk to this person and that would be the quest, and then go talk to another person. They're barely being objective half the time, and a lot of the time it was just really simple stuff that didn't really mean anything. It was really hard to get into. I didn't really care about the deep lore of Dragon Age, sorry. While we're speaking of dialogue, this game does have an insane amount of options to choose from when talking to other NPCs, and you can implement a good bit of personality into this game. It didn't work out for me, and also by the looks of it, it didn't really work out for a lot of Dragon Age fans. The reviews on this for the user score were pretty all over the place. From my understanding, Dragon Age kind of shifts the gameplay formula with each installment, and this one was one of the lesser enjoyed ones, it appears. Also, other people liked it. I don't know. For me, it's easy to fall into the camp of not enjoying it, so I guess I'm not the only one here, but probably not for the same reasons. Dragon Age Inquisition beat out Dark Souls 2, Bayonetta 2, Hearthstone, and most notably, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. For me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I will 100% take Shadow of Mordor over this game. That is way more my speed. If I talked about the Lord of the Rings games, that's one of the best out there. Aside from being a Lord of the Rings game, it's just a great game, and definitely Dragon Age Inquisition is not deserving of Game of the Year. However, since this is our first game, it is going to be our first place spot right now. Spoiler alert, not going to be there that long.
And the winner for Game of the Year 2015 is...
Before we continue, I want to thank Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Do you ever feel like your browser is lacking? Well, if it's not Opera GX, I can confidently say that it is. With a built-in VPN that not only guarantees security while browsing, but also allows you to switch up your location to watch restricted content on your favorite streaming platforms. And if you upgrade to their VPN Pro, you can protect your entire setup aside from just browsing with next-generation VPN encryption on up to 6 devices for 1 subscription. Another feature I really like is the ad blocker that, I kid you not, is a click-and-forget experience, and then those pesky advertisements are a problem of the past. And since it's your browser, you should be able to pimp that shit out however you want. There are plenty of pre-made mod packages that customize the keyboard sound, wallpaper, background music, the opening and closing of tab sounds, a unique splash screen on startup. My favorite has to be the cursors, which change whether you're about to type something or click on a link or whatever it may be. And as you can see, I'm running the Cyberpunk package, which the mouse changes as it would as if you're playing the video game. And this is just one of the many mod packages out there. You also have like the lo-fi chill beat girl. Minecraft was another one I liked, and you can even mix and match the sounds and the wallpapers and make a totally unique experience curated to your interests. All located on the GX store. Being a user of Opera GX for like 3 years now, I truly believe this is the best browser you can use, especially as a gamer, because you can limit the resources that this browser takes from your PC. And the best part about making the switch is there's a quick import tool that you just click what browser you want to import settings from, and boom, it's all there. Your bookmarks, your data, all of it ready to go. But go ahead and click down below and download Opera GX today.
And the winner for Game of the Year 2015 is... The Witcher 3.
I came to realize that I'm not the only person who's backlogged Witcher 3. As a matter of fact, only 25% of people who have booted up the game actually beat it, and that's not a difficulty thing. I think it's just because the game is so fucking long. I've had this game for probably since it came out, just absolutely collecting dust in my Steam backlog. I've started it a couple times, and then something came up. I don't know. It was never I don't like this game. I just never got around to actually playing it. So my first playthrough for this game, like a lot of games we're to talk about, was this video. We kick things off with the Tarantino intro cutscene. Tarantino movie? before we're introduced to Geralt, our protagonist, who sounds like Solid Snake.
Yennefer. Funny, isn't it? She's never been there. Seems so real in my dream, though.
You play one of the most brief yet effective tutorials, introducing you to the silver and steel sword combat, parrying, dodging, consumables, and of course signs. And you really have to use basically all these elements in the game. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna do a mage build and just cast spells. No, you have to do everything this game has to offer, and you kind of feel like a jack of all trades. I don't really think you can really make a build in this game. Sure, you can make certain things better than others, but you really are just playing the game the way it's meant to be played all the time. Speaking of leveling up and perk selection, this game takes a much different approach in that, one, you get little to no XP for combat and defeating enemies. The only way to level up is by starting and completing quests completely. And two, once you level up and get a new perk or ability, you then have to pick and choose which unlock perks you want to use, which also made for some hard decisions. I never really played a game where either of these elements are present. I actually enjoyed quests being the only real primary way to level up. It makes you play the side quests, which is good because unlike Dragon Age Inquisition, the side quests in this game are some of the best out there. They're very compelling and a lot of the times more interesting than the main story. Not that I had an issue with the main story, but the side quests were just that interesting. For example, there's one at the very beginning that involves a husband looking for his wife and a werewolf and a sister, and I'm just gonna leave it at that, but that one was really cool. Anyways, as far as that main quest like we were talking about, after finding Yennefer, which is this game's prologue, you're tasked to find Ciri, and as you discover more, you play these memory segments as Ciri, which was a nice change of pace as well. I will say the hunt for Ciri does get old pretty fast because, no exaggeration, I think about 80% of this game is go find this person who we think knows something about Ciri, and then you go talk to them and they'll send you to do something else. A lot of the times also go talk to someone else or go find someone. It's like one ginormous dysfunctional game of telephone until you reach the end of the game, I guess. But the gameplay definitely makes up for it since there's so many different enemies and creatures that make you play differently. Speaking of which, you got some absolutely f***ed creatures in this game. It is unreal how like disturbing and creative they got with this. Yeah, this sick son of a bitch, this is, they call him UMA, and it literally means ugliest man alive. This poor bastard. That is the given name he has in this video game. You also have this Smurf fucker kid who's up to all sorts of mischief, and then these witch people who look like they're ripped straight out of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, and also belong in Slipknot maybe. But above all, the water hags gotta be like the most disturbing thing out of this. Well, maybe not disturbing, but I'm just gonna leave it at, I don't even think I can show you what these things look like on YouTube because of how just fucking outlandish they are. They really just went all in on the enemy design and did not hold back whatsoever. The open world you explore is crazy, aside from just having a lot of places to explore, and I mean a lot. There is so much to do with how many quests and secrets they stuffed into this game. There's also Gwent, which is basically another game inside the game if you like card games, and I've played a lot of video games, but I will go as far to say that I don't think I've ever played a game that has so much content and is so dense as The Witcher 3. There's also DLC that is mega massive, and people like it more than the base game, the Blood and Wine at least, and I didn't touch that for this video because I don't think that was implemented or like taken account for when it came to awarding this game of the year, but I do plan on playing that sometime. Novigrad is where you're going to spend most of your time in kind of like the main city in this place. Then there's also Skellig or Skellige, however you say it, being this frigid harbor mountain town, being my kind of vibe. Speaking of which, it's the place you're not supposed to go to until the end game, which I respected that rule. I waited until I was the appropriate level, but technically you can go here whenever you want, even though the level requirements are way higher than what it should be, what you should be at the time rather, at the beginning of the game. Also from the same vein, you got to respect these level recommendations, because if you go even just a few levels under, it's going to be really hard. The base difficulty is pretty, it's no joke, and then I've had to do this like once or twice where I had to turn to easy just to get out of a situation, and then the game becomes super easy, so there's not really a good balance there. You just have to do the levels at what level they recommend you to do it at. Don't try and be a hero like me or more like an idiot. Similar to Dragon Age, you also get tons of dialogue options, but also tons of decisions to make, which will result in different endings of the game. And when you've done with that base game, you actually have 2 separate DLCs like we talked about before, and apparently specifically Blood and Wine is like the best DLC ever of the universe of all time that's ever been released. And then also I think there's rumors or like some type of loose confirmation that there's about to be another DLC like next month in 2026. I keep hearing that, and people at my work are talking about it, so whatever the you want to make of that. But The Witcher 3 beat out Fallout 4, Bloodborne, Super Mario Maker, and Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I mean, maybe Metal Gear Solid 5 aside from Bloodborne, since I haven't played that, but I'm still going to give it to Witcher 3. This is a deserved entry, and it is also our new #1 spot.
The Game of the Year at the Game Awards 2016 is Overwatch.
The one and only multiplayer game that has ever won Game of the Year, Overwatch is the game that took the team-based hero shooters into the mainstream. Sure, we had Team Fortress 2 before this, which was also relatively large, but I think it was Overwatch that really took this whole genre into the stratosphere. And I would go as far and say games like Apex Legends and Valorant and Marvel Rivals wouldn't really be where they are without Overwatch. I will say ranking Overwatch in 2026 is pretty hard because A, you can't really play technically Overwatch 1 anymore. It's all Overwatch 2 in the update. Did change the game significantly, and since it is a live service model to begin with, the game is much different than it was on launch. But luckily for you guys, Overwatch is actually my most played video game of all time. And I'm not exaggerating. It's kind of by like a lot. Let me just exaggerate how ridiculous of a number this is. The way Overwatch calculates their hours is it's only in-game time when you're in a match, and also not including the ban phases, not including when you're in the spawn, when you're selecting your hero, when you're in the main menu browsing the store, the battle pass, whatever it is now, or most importantly, the queue times, and which can be fucking ridiculous and competitive, by the way. That also does not include when I played this game on console, which was on launch for like the first 2 or 3 years, or my alt account, because I've been banned on here for abusive game chat. Yeah, this game, it really does bring out the worst in me. I will confidently say that.
All right, now I'm Juno. I'm good then. He got off Juno for some reason.
Don't switch your name. Don't switch your name. Dude, you can't do that. Nano's like one of the best ults in the fucking game.
Yeah, I was trying.
Christian, that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That was the worst thing I've ever seen in this game.
With that out of the way, I'll just leave it at that. I kind of know ball when it comes to Overwatch, unfortunately. But I will say, I have this many hours in the game for a reason, and it's because it's so fucking good when it's good. It's arguably the worst state it's ever been in right now, but the best moments of Overwatch are some of the best moments I've ever had playing PvP games. Being a first-person shooter, it does get sweaty, but there's plenty of characters that much more rely on game sense and not raw mechanical skill, that there really is a role for everyone. That being said, it's no wonder that this game, at least for a little bit, made such a great esport, and people forget that this is what put our boy XQC on the map.
Is that a chicken?
A lot of gameplay you're seeing now is from Overwatch 2, since all of my own footage is that's what I have the most of. But in its heyday, Overwatch 2016 was peak gaming, and the few years after were arguably even better. Overwatch 2 may have been one of the worst decisions in gaming, and the departure of Jeff Kaplan a relevant factor in the decline of Overwatch's future. I mean, can we like remember that the whole reason for Overwatch 2 was for PvE and like a story mode, and Overwatch 2's been out like 3.5 years and we still don't have that? I mean, that's just like ridiculous. It's gone through insane amount of hero changes, meta shifts, and wild allegations, but at its core, it is, or maybe even just was, a phenomenal game. And when you look at the other nominees being Doom, Inside, Uncharted 4, and Titanfall 2, this is the rare occurrence where I'm more than happy with the multiplayer game taking the cake for Game of the Year. And this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but this is our new top dog dethroning Witcher 3. Please don't get that ranking twisted with the game for what it is now. I'm just ranking this at its best moment because it was awarded in 2016, meaning I'm just taking it for what Overwatch was in 2016, if that makes any sense.
The winner for Game of the Year is selected by 51 global media and influencer outlets and the fans. And this year, the Game of the Year goes to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
You ever heard the term that Dark Side of the Moon is the best album of all time, but not the best Pink Floyd album of all time? For some reason, that statement kind of resonates well with Breath of the Wild being one of the best games of all time, but certainly not the best Legend of Zelda game. Taking a big risk with changing the formula entirely and taking a much more open world experience rather than linear dungeons with secrets to explore in between with the previous titles, Breath of the Wild gave us the biggest and most dense Zelda game up until this point. Taking a sandbox approach with your Sheikah Slate powers like stasis and the remote bombs, you now had an entire world to interact with, and the icing on the cake was the fact that you could do anything in any order, with next to nothing in this game being tied down to a prerequisite. I remember hearing that you could beat this game in like 25 minutes, and I totally thought it was bullshit or had to be like all sorts of glitches. But no, as soon as you march out of that tomb, you can walk straight to Ganon and take him on head on just with your little bitch ass sword and your broken shield. The game gives you everything right off rip to do anything in this game. There's nothing you have to unlock to do something else, which again, kind of like not traditional Zelda, but I'm doing my best to not compare it, like take this game down for not being traditional Zelda game. I'm trying to take it for face value, but as a Zelda fan, it was a big deal, and I was one of those people who was pissed. The combat was smooth, and the armor and outfits and bonuses that they grant were awesome callbacks to other Zelda games. Obviously, like I said, the formula switch up takes some getting used to, mainly the absence of traditional dungeons, but the real annoying part of the game that I thought I would never be able to get over was the durability on weapons and shields. This was really annoying, especially when you unlock the Master Sword, it being like tied down by a fucking cooldown. Like that was kind of bullshit. I'm not gonna lie. This is like the best sword in the whole entire realm, and you're telling me you can only hit it for like, use it for 20 hits, and then you gotta, oh, it's on cooldown. Let me wait a second. There's some other mechanics like the cold and hot system, adjusting based off of your clothes you're wearing and what environment you're in. But another mechanic I really liked was the cooking. This let you like completely break the game. If you know what certain things do, you can make insane meals that will give you insane attack power and insane damage negation and or like crazy health. Like this was really fun, especially if you just looked up what things did. You could just have dumbass food that made you crazy. I played this game a lot, and funny enough, the first time I ever played it was on the Wii U actually. But since then I beat it multiple times on the Switch, and even after I beat Tears of the Kingdom, I went back and played this one more time, kind of as a last hurrah, because when you play Tears of the Kingdom, it kind of ruins this game. Or you can look at it the other way around, that Breath of the Wild ruined Tears of the Kingdom because Tears of the Kingdom is just more Breath of the Wild, even though I think Tears of the Kingdom is better. But it's another like polarizing thing with two already polarizing games in the Zelda universe. The whole building mechanic in Tears of the Kingdom is just makes this game more sandboxy than it already was, and that's my preference. Just a little side note for you guys. Anyways, Breath of the Wild beat out Persona 5, PUBG, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Super Mario Odyssey, which is a very stacked lineup. But listen here, I'm not only a sucker for some Legend of Zelda, I'm even more of a sucker for some good 3D Mario platforming, and I'm going to say Breath of the Wild did not deserve Game of the Year, and I would have given it to Super Mario Odyssey. I always said that when I first got my Switch. When I played Odyssey, I was always like, I like this more than Breath of the Wild. I knew on the first playthrough that was going to be my stance, and I'm going to stay firm here. But just because I like Odyssey better and don't think that Breath of the Wild deserved Game of the Year does not mean I think it's a bad game. And as a matter of fact, it is our new top dog, dethroning Overwatch.
All right, and the game award for Game of the Year goes to God of War.
God of War is a franchise I know next to nothing about. As far as I'm concerned, it's a god killing other gods. And in God of War 2018, you follow Kratos as he's trying to live a quiet and humble life with his son and his late wife before he's threatened and goes on an adventure. You unfold a beautiful father and son relationship that gives its ups and downs, and usually kids in video games can be pretty annoying, but I think Atreus was actually like totally bearable. There's a point where he makes a discovery about his past that he becomes a little arrogant and annoying, but other than that, I mean, he's very likable in my opinion. And the way Kratos is just like an absolute dick to him all the time was pretty funny too. But the gameplay is a mix between a beat 'em up, hack and slash, and a little bit of Batman Arkham thrown into the mix. You have a skill tree that is constantly giving you some crazy ability, and the rune abilities let you throw a lot of flair into your gameplay. Sprinkle in the occasional puzzle with your axe, and that's basically the entire game. I want to applaud this game for being super beginner friendly when it comes to just how digestible it is. It's very simple. Yes, there is an A to B story, but there's plenty of side quests or favors, I think is what they call them, that are totally optional but also very rewarding. The way I describe it is just a classic action adventure game with tons of tons of depth, and you can also get really good at it if you just master the combat. On the other side of the coin, there's a lot of challenge to it if you want to take on the Valkyries. Even after you beat the game, these bosses are fucking ridiculous. They're actually way harder than the rest of the game in my opinion. So there's something for everybody here. On top of that, there's also tons of collectibles and upgrades that you can easily miss, and if you want to do some poking around, the game also rewards you very much so for that. It's the biggest small game you'll ever play. It's very simple. You don't have to do really any looking up to like how to play the game or where to find things, because you're gonna find them naturally by playing the game throughout its entirety. Round this game off with a simple yet interesting A to B story with a really nice plot twist, or I guess reveal at the end, sugar-coated with some comic relief between the Dwarven brothers, and you're in for a great game. However, not deserving of Game of the Year when you see that this game beat out Red Dead Redemption 2. Don't get me wrong, God of War 2018 was a blast, a very just really a breath of fresh air, kind of just making things simple again. But Red Dead 2, I mean, come on, bro. Like, not that fucking good. Still a great game. I am putting this at number 3, sandwiching it between Overwatch and Witcher 3.
The Game of the Year award goes to Sekiro.
Of all the games I had to play for this video, the one going into it that I was super anxious and nervous to play was Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. One, because I never played a FromSoft game, let alone obviously a Souls-like game, even though people argue that if this is a Souls game or not. And 2, if I would even enjoy the game or be able to beat it. And let's just say neither of those were an issue, because not only did I beat Sekiro, I actually loved every fucking minute of playing this masterpiece. I knew next to nothing about the Souls formula, if you will, but to my understanding, this game actually had dramatically different gameplay when it comes to the combat and also its linearity. The name of the game is parrying and kind of works as a rhythm game at some points, with you and your enemies not only having a health bar, but more importantly, a posture bar that is depleted on successful parries and hits that land. Once the posture bar is broken, a killing blow lands, immediately depleting their health bar, and some enemies and bosses actually have multiple health bars. And once you get the hang of this game, it becomes insanely addicting and satisfying and very rewarding. I mean, you get to a point where you have to just get good at this game, and I'll talk about that in here in just a second. This game is referred to not as only the hardest Souls game of all time, but also like the hardest game of all time, up there with the fucking Lion King Super Nintendo game. Since the game is super hard, the gratification on beating a boss or even like a mini boss that you're just stuck on, it is so rewarding, and a feeling I have not felt playing a video game in a very long time. The feeling I get when you like clutch the 1v6 in the S&D, which rarely happens, that's like every boss fight in this game once you beat it. The pacing is really good as far as difficulty goes, with minor bosses early on like the Chained Ogre really pissing me off, but still very manageable. And then you fight Genichiro at the top of the tower. I guess technically it's your second time fighting him, and it is a holy this is so much harder than anything I've done before this, and I already thought the game was hard enough to begin with. It's at like 2 hours into the game, and to me, I was like, okay, I made it this far. I have to beat this. There's absolutely no way I'm stopping right here. I've had a lot of fun. I have to beat this. And then it gives you that sense of confidence that, okay, now I beat this. I know I can beat the rest of the game. And that's what I did. Also, what I really like about this game is that the boss fights, there's not much cheese to them, if you will. The cheese in Souls games I've discovered is exploits within the game that let you make a boss easier by using some mechanic or sometimes glitches that give you an easier route. For the cheese in Sekiro, you just gotta get good. There's no cheese. There's like one boss I kind of like abused the firecrackers for. That was the fuck, what's his name? The monk, the corrupted monk, this one. But other than that, you got to beat everything fair and square here. Whenever I would look up like a really hard boss, I'd be, okay, let's look at the cheese guy. Let's do it. Let's try and cheese this. It would be wait for this attack pattern he does and then go up and hit him and then run away. Basically, like just killing him by his health and not the posture, and it would still be like turn a 3-minute boss fight into a 30-minute boss fight that you also could still very much so fuck up. There was no cheesing this game at all. Yes, there are the shinobi prosthetics. Like I said, the firecrackers are one that kind of helps you with maybe some of the mini bosses, but definitely not like game breaking at all. But for the most part, the shinobi prosthetics, the combat arts, and the perks are all almost afterthoughts of this game. Yes, they kind of help you a little bit, but definitely not like they're not game breaking at all. The only upgrade you can do to your character basically is get a higher health pool, which doesn't really matter because you're still going to be getting one shot by so many things in this game. So with all that in mind, you without a doubt have to just get good at this game, and I'll go even far to say that you have to get perfect at this game. You cannot f up once. One mistake is the difference between life or death, like 9 times out of 10. Once you get perfect, you can make bosses that you were stuck for hours on look like an absolute cakewalk, and it just feels so good. Speaking of which, aside from maybe the monkey puzzle one, which was like a gimmicky boss, this game has the perfect lineup of bosses, and each one plays so different from each other and so much fun to beat. The Guardian Ape is a fan favorite, and this one they totally got me with it. I spent like an hour trying to beat him, and I finally beat him, and then he does this shit.
No, you got him, he doesn't.
No! No fucking way!
Yeah, I mean, talk about like feeling so happy you beat it, and then it turns out you didn't beat it, and it's like the worst thing ever, but it made you know you could beat the second phase, and they just keep you going. It's so fucking good. But of all these bosses we've talked about and all the frustration and happiness and satisfaction you get, there is one boss that is leaps and bounds above everything else as far as difficulty goes, and that is the very last boss of the game, being the Ashen Sword Saint. Oh my gosh, this thing is so fucking ridiculous. To put in perspective how hard this specific boss fight was, it took me about like 33 hours to beat this game in its entirety, and 11.5 hours of that was spent on this boss fight that can be done in like 4 minutes. Let me say that one more time. 11.5 hours on a boss fight that takes 4 minutes. Hands down, this was unlike any challenge I've ever had in a video game, and you know, I was at it probably like 2 or 3 hours, and I was getting nowhere, and I'm like, hey, I have to watch a guide. And all the guides of the cheese weren't cheese. It was the same thing. Run around, hit him once, run away. You'll just die anyways because he's going to shoot you because he has a fucking gun. Because why not? Why wouldn't he have a gun when it's like ancient Japan? And it all just kind of circled back to you have to get good. And this one you had to get perfect. You had to be 100% perfect, not fuck up one time or you are dead. You take on this Metal Gear Solid 3 ass ending arena where you fight Genichiro again. And then in a true crazy ass anime fashion, Ashen hops out of his body to then fight you. You have an additional 3 phases to complete, making a total of 4 phases. And Ashen makes you implement literally every single last mechanic this game has to offer to use with each other until you eventually get a perfect run and beat him. I'll spare you the details of each phase, but it became to where getting him to one phase, you then had to basically restarting over. Okay, it's like, hey, I got to this phase now. Now I have to survive long enough to memorize each attack pattern, and I'm gonna be just die before I can even do that. So you would the first like 2 phases of this I now have like down so good. I can make it look so fucking awesome, and then you get to the 3rd phase and it's like, oh, whole new attack pattern, gotta memorize this, and I'm just gonna die. And here's my reaction to when I finally beat him at like 3 in the morning.
Oh my gosh. 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 It's like 3 in the morning exactly. Oh my gosh. I can't be loud, but like I want to scream right now. Holy fuck.
Sekiro beat The Outer Worlds, Smash Ultimate, Resident Evil 2, Death Stranding, and Control for Game of the Year, to which I wholeheartedly agree. I fucking loved this game so much. I hope they make a sequel. I know there's going to be an anime coming out. I guess I'll watch that in the meantime, but I want more Sekiro right now. This is our new top dog.
And now, the Game of the Year award goes to The Last of Us Part 2.
The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the most controversial games on this list, and I remember when it came out, opinions were all over the place, especially when compared to the first game. I went into this game having already watched the show, and Season 1 was fine, but Season 2, I was like, man, they must have like really f***ed the story from the video game. No way the video game was like, had this bad of a story. And then you play the game and it's like, oh man, they actually were pretty faithful to the game, and that's not good.
I'm gonna be a dad.
Spoiler alert incoming. I'm just gonna go ahead and stall for a little bit, but when they decided to kill off Joel, that wasn't even my problem with it. Like, it's everything around that. It's the characters that you play that you do not, like, the best way to sum it up is you just do not give a f about anything going on in this game. It's a revenge story for Ellie going after the people who gatted Joel, but it is so uncompelling and so uninteresting, and even just like the dialogue, the words coming out of their mouth it's just dumb. I don't know how to describe it. When the story isn't compelling, it's hard to give a shit about literally anything and everything you're doing at any given moment. And then also, halfway through the game, you switch to Abby, who's the antagonist, you could say, I guess. And you have 2 different perspectives, each with their own motives. And normally I wouldn't mind this decision, but Ellie and Abby both have different perk trees and upgrades, and when you go switch to the character, you lose all those because there are different abilities, and you start from scratch, which felt like everything I had done meant nothing, which it kind of already did as far as the story goes, until the very end where you get a, reprise that role and all your stuff is back. But for the most part, I did not like this decision from a story perspective or from the gameplay perspective. Okay, so yeah, I've been dogging the story a lot, and I don't want to undermine this game's achievement in its gameplay, which is actually really good when you're not bombarded by cutscenes that don't mean shit. The AI is very impressive with its detection system, and there's cool interactions like when you're hitting someone or stealth killing someone. If they're backed up against a wall, the animation will change depending on where they're getting hit. Since it's a stealth game, you get to craft all sorts of throwables to distract human enemies or the infected, which made the game much more of a survival horror game than a stealth game that I thought I was getting myself into. And since the resources are limited, you're gonna find yourself out of ammo very often, and you'll eventually have to take the stealth option at some point, if not the majority of the game. If they decided to make the story more compelling, I would be into it, but this was just it was a chore to get through. But I know for sure that Doom Eternal is my game of the year for 2020. That is like an all-time game for me. So yeah, definitely not deserving of game of the year. And it is also going at the number 6 spot, below Witcher 3, but above Dragon Age Inquisition. Gameplay good, story bad.
And the 2021 game of the year is It Takes Two.
Couch co-op seems to be a forgotten element in gaming, with everything going online and even franchises like Halo that were once known for split-screen multiplayer, opting out for support in their newer installments. We'll leave it to Hazelight Studios to revive the gameplay feature entirely with It Takes Two, a charming Honey I Shrunk the Kid's tale between a married couple on the brink of divorce, fortifying their relationship not only between each other, but also their daughter. Before we get into the gameplay of this, the story is actually so heartwarming, sad at the same time, and it's actually like Very serious and for sure sensitive to a lot of people out there. I can totally understand that. Without spoiling it, this is just way more than a game just to play with your girlfriend. You have probably some of the most diverse lineup of levels, with each segment giving you a new power-up or gimmick to let you progress your way through each level that you have to use alongside whoever you're playing with. It really brings you and whoever you're playing this game with closer together, because you have to have that chemistry in order to solve some of these puzzles or do some of these platforming together.
Lucky.
Chrissy, your ass. Chrissy! Your ass.
Yeah, I'm a piece of shit. It's a little more on the easier side of things, which I don't mind at all because it's clearly designed for extreme casuals, or better yet, maybe even children, which I'll go ahead and say I'm stoked to play this game with my future children whenever that is. I guess unless I'm going through a divorce. And this game even has more replayability than you think, with not only the mini games, but also each character having their own abilities for each segment and playing the game differently. I really enjoyed playing through this game, and I found it really interesting to see almost like a dated concept be revived in such a beautiful way, because even when you're playing online, you still see the other person's screen, because that's actually a good bit of the gaming, is like watching the other person's screen while you're controlling your person, because maybe they have the better angle, or you need to be paying attention to what's going on theirs to do something on yours. You know what it is? It's very clever in that way. I'm going to say this is a deserved game of the year, since I haven't played any of the other nominees, being Resident Evil Village, Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread, and Ratchet & Clank A Rift Apart. And I'll put this at number 6, above Last of Us Part 2, but below Witcher 3.
Game of the year winner is Elden Ring.
Similar to Sekiro, Elden Ring was also another game I was very anxious and nervous to play. Similar reason, scared I wasn't going to like it and be bad at it, and 2, I wasn't going to be able to beat it. FromSoft strikes again. I fucking loved this game too. I will say, going in with the, I guess, preparedness that Sekiro gave to pamper me up for this game, because I can tell you straight up, Sekiro is way harder than this game. We'll talk about that later, but it's still very different in the gameplay like we talked about before. I created my samurai character and opted into my voice selection. To which I immediately beelined it to the first boss and was quickly humbled.
No!
Oh no.
No! Oh my gosh! It just never stopped!
I discovered that leveling up and getting new equipment is an extreme focal point of this game, since you'll essentially be tickling Margit with your sword if you don't. And that's when I realized this game just wants you to poke around. It wants you to get better. It wants you to find better things, explore the world, because there is a lot to do here, way more than Sekiro, which I knew Elden Ring was an open world game, but I thought, you know, not to the extent that I discovered it was. So obviously I did that. I did a lot of poking around. However, it's not really a complaint, but if you want to find good shit or find out how to do anything in this game that's quest related, you have to look at a guide. At least for me, there's no quest log. There's no waypoints on the map. Sometimes there's an exception, but a lot of the time it's just explore the world, read what this person says. They honestly talk like in riddles, and you never really know what exactly to do. So I had to look up guides quite a bit. Anyways, I came back and fight Margit. I beat him, and that's when I realized that was one of the harder skill checks in the game, in my opinion, because it's so early on in the game, kind of like Genichiro and Sekiro. And it once again gave me that confidence. I'm like, okay, I can beat this. And to be fair, every boss after that until a certain point was just as hard, if not easier, in my experience. However, my friend who's pretty experienced in this game, he was like, oh, here, dude, I know a little secret. And I was just literally had no idea what the fuck I was doing. He was just sitting next to me telling me what to do. And that's when I discovered the underworld way early and found out this exploit where I'm sure everyone who plays the game knows this. You shoot the little chicken guy, you run away, he follows you, falls off, and you're rich as fuck. You get like 12k runes every time you do that, and you can just do that all over and over and over again, which I did maybe once or twice, or 100. I don't know. I actually like this because there's no way I would enjoy just farming, killing bitch-ass NPCs. So, but even doing this, you never felt your stats alone couldn't carry you. You still had to be pretty good at the game. Not like Sekiro. Definitely helped. Like Sekiro, you just had to get good. This, you did not have to do that. You could still have a little more lenience, if you will. I went for a traditional playthrough. It was a strength and dexterity, which I ended up leaning more into dexterity later on, and I used the Bloodhound's Fang, which you also get pretty early on if you find it. It was very simple. I didn't use any summons. Somehow, not knowing anything about this game, I knew that summons broke the game, so I made it an effort to not use summons until the last 2 bosses. cringe. But like I said, every boss after Margit was manageable until I got to this son of a bitch, Malekith. Oh my gosh, this was the hardest boss in the game for me personally. And then that's when I caved. After Malekith is when I decided to get the Mimic tier, which fucking, I mean, that actually puts the game on easy mode. I did not struggle on the last boss whatsoever because, one, I guess originally for the Elden Beast, you couldn't ride Torrent. So, but since I'm playing it years later, I was able to ride Torrent. And you also have a Mimic tier. It's honestly laughable. It makes the last boss fight so like underwhelming, especially when you compare it to this fucker right here. But I like to circle back to the difficulty because with a variety of weapons, summons, craftables, magic, and armor at your disposal, this game is as hard as you want to make it. But no matter how hard you make it, it really doesn't hold a candle to Sekiro when it comes to difficulty. But with all that said, you have so much variety to the gameplay, and the way the New Game Plus is set up is that you can replay this game as many times as you want and just switch your build. And also, this girl, forget her name, you can you cash in these tiers and respec your character entirely, and it's actually very useful, and there's only a limited amount you can do per run. But I actually did this because I needed some arcane going on, and I found this mechanic very useful and very rewarding. I really like this game because the more you put into it, the more you got out of it. With all that said, again, not even factoring the DLC for this review, since it wasn't out when it came out for Game of the Year, but that's a task I'm going to tackle when I play every FromSoft game in the coming months. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. As far as other cons for this game, I don't really have any. The open world is fine. The fucking labyrinth that is the capital city was kind of annoying. I actually had to look up a guide to just get through that. And then sometimes the camera can be a little fucky. That was a little annoying. But other than that, this is another masterpiece. FromSoft is on an absolute heater right now. It is one of the best video games that has ever been made. And for sure, 100% without a doubt, the game of the year. And it is our number 2 spot. I still think Sekiro is a little bit better. It is our runner-up right now. Sekiro gameplay just has a chokehold on me.
And the game of the year is Baldur's Gate 3.
Look, we chatted about a party-based RPG game as our very first game on this list, and yeah, not a big fan. So Baldur's Gate 3, can it come as a surprise? Not a big fan. Don't click off the video because I know we still have one more turn-based RPG game that I promise I like a lot more than this, and it will be spoken very highly of. Just give me a second. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, I played this game by myself, and I know it's like a terrible way to experience this. It's totally designed to be played with friends and like the whole party-based system. But since it shares the same universe as D&D, there's all sorts of D&D elements to it, like the narrator and the D20 rolls, odds being modified by your character's stats and how good they are. But even after playing close attention to the tutorial and also doing some guide research, this reiterates that I am just not cut out for these damn games, bro. Every time I have to play one of these games, aside from the one we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes, it is just always a chore, and I don't enjoy it ever. Like I said, maybe playing this alongside with someone else or a whole party of 4. I think ideally, if I had it my way, I would, just like D&D, I would have weekly meetups with my friends. We would all play for a couple hours, get a lot of shit done, have different builds that complement each other. You know, I think that's the way this game is designed to play, and that's just not feasible for me. I don't have friends that would want to do this for the most part. So yeah, basically just ignore everything I'm saying here, but I know for me, if it were up to me, if I was pulling the strings at the Game Awards, I would definitely take Tears of the Kingdom over this for Game of the Year. And I'm also going to put it at number 8, right above Last of Us Part 2, but below It Takes Two.
And the game of the year is ASTROBOT.
When it comes to 3D platformers, Mario has always been the kingpin, and it's rare you see anyone stand a chance to dethrone him. Let me tell you, ASTROBOT stands a pretty good chance in that fight. I'm not gonna lie, this was a pleasant surprise of a video game, and I was fully committed to this. I haven't bought a console in years. I'm basically PC and Switch, and I actually had to buy a PS5 for this.
We got the Fortnite PS5.
So I hard committed to this game, and I'm sure glad I did. Taking on the Super Mario Sunshine movement with a jetpack system, and then the Mario Galaxy vibe, sprinkled in with Mario Galaxy power-up inspired gameplay, this is hands down one of the best 3D platformers I have ever played in modern years. Being a Sony IP wet dream with levels at the end of each world themed around the Sony IP, one of which being God of War, to which you use Kratos' axe to solve puzzles like we did in the Game of the Year 2018. There's also this one where you just run around gatting everybody in the Uncharted segment. Also pretty cool. The level design is varied but familiar to any fan of 3D platforming. On top of this, aside from getting to the end of each level, it also has a major collectathon element to it in the form of saving bots. Speaking of which, you almost have to 100% the game to complete it because the requirements for progressing each world is pretty hefty. Like you will be replaying levels for this game. And they do it in such a clever way because when you come back to a level you've already completed, there's this little thing you can buy for 200 coins, which is basically nothing. And it shows you where all the secrets are, that being the secret levels that are hidden within each level. Not every level, some levels don't have them. But then also the astrobots you're obviously trying to save, and then the puzzle pieces too. That was my problem with collectathon games, is they kind of feel tedious to go back and play a whole level over again just to find like one thing. And you sometimes have to scavenge for it. But here it's going to tell you where everything is, which I really like. Some people probably hate that, but it's also optional. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to go get that. Aside from platforming, there are a few motion control segments. Yeah, I also always forget that the PlayStation, since like the PS3, I think has the controller has built-in motion controls. Always forget that. But these also don't feel like a chore. They're pretty normal. I mean, it's like, you know, you blow into the mic or you tilt it left or right. It's really not bad at all. The last boss is also pretty cool, and that involves every PlayStation console and accessories used to defeat the alien, which I thought was in good taste. The game does err on the side of easy when it comes to platforming, but it's also solved because once you beat the game, there's way harder levels to play and like challenge levels that make the game much more difficult. This is also counteracted with the fact that this game is a one-shot kill game. Like, you will just get hit if you take any damage, so there's also that. Sprinkle on a banger soundtrack, and I'll go as far to say this is better than a handful of 3D Mario platformers out there. I mean, I already established that I love Mario so much so that I have this to piss everybody off with. This deserved Game of the Year, and it was just saying something because I fucking love Balatro, and the fact that Balatro was in the nominee was pretty cool, and this is our number 4 spot.
The Game of the Year is mon ami Clair Obscur, Expedetion 33.
Party-based real-time combat. Not for me. Party-based turn-based combat. Also not for me. So now we're going to meet in the middle here with party-based turn-based combat being Expedetion 33. And shocker, I actually fucking loved this game. Now, Expedetion 33 is not only a game going into it I thought I would hate just because of what I briefly had heard about it, but I was also sick and tired of fucking hearing about it everywhere. It won every Game of the Year award. It was the joke that promotion you want at work, Expedition 33 somehow snagged that. Oh, you won your 1v1 in Smash? Well, the winner is actually Expedition 33. Yeah, Expedition 33 stole your girlfriend. I mean, this thing was everywhere. Somehow this game takes two elements from video games that I'm not a fan of and makes the most digestible, stimulating, and rewarding gameplay with the coat of the most artistic and compelling story on the outside, and you're given the absolute masterpiece that is Expedition 33. Now, I think the best way to experience this game is by knowing absolutely nothing about it like I did, and so I'm going to be very limited with what gameplay I show, like how far into the game it's going to be, because there's such a mystery behind. There's like this Attack on Titan story where this really crazy thing happens like every year, and you just don't know what to do about it, and no one knows anything about it, and you're just trying to unveil that and stop it from happening. So within the first hour, you're met with extreme devastation, and it only gets amplified the more you play it. And I'm just going to leave it there as far as the story goes. I really want, if you're going to play this game, to just go head first. Don't look up anything about it. Just go into it. As far as gameplay, like I said, it's turn-based combat with moves having damage output and element outputs, but each member of your party has some quirk you play around to amplify your moves or your other party members' moves, which makes you play very strategic. Just because you can use a really powerful move, it may not be beneficial to use it that turn, because you're basically, without spoiling too much, you're trying to set up like the perfect turn with having everything like lined at the same turn, and you maximize your damage or whatever it's going to be. This is complemented very well by the pictos you find in your journey, which are basically perks that you equip and also are used to buff your stats across the board. As you level up your party, you'll learn new moves and become more powerful, to which you'll put skill points into attributes that scale with your weapon of choice, which also have perks of their own. Now, this may sound very overwhelming at first, and it kind of is. The pictos are the most overstimulating part, because at the end of the game, you're going to have so many to choose from, and they're all like really good, but you can combine them to do some pretty crazy shit. Like CL, this girl, I made her really broken. I'm not going to tell you the build, but I made her just really stupid. It was pretty funny. The moves are very broad, and each character has such a wide variety that the characters themselves aren't builds. Like, you make the builds based off the pictos. It's kind of like, oh, you're going to take this picto, that means I'm going to give you this one too. But each character can have multiple pictos of the same pictos. They're shared, which is also really cool. Being turn-based, this game kind of takes the Paper Mario approach, where you still have quick time interactions to be had when attacking, but also dodging and even parrying. And the parrying and dodging is much more of the quick time events that if you get good at the game, you can run this whole game just by skill, never take any damage ever. And hey, I just came from Sekiro a couple games prior, so I wasn't that bad at it, I'm not gonna lie. People say this is like Dark Souls RPG. I do not agree with that. I think, yeah, there are like boss fights, and you have to remember attack patterns if you want to get good at them, to not take damage and counter attack and whatnot, but I don't think that the difficulty of this game comes close to Dark Souls. It is harder, like you're gonna have to lock in to beat some of these bosses, but I think the difficulty is like just right. Also, another piece of information that I didn't know about this game is that it's pretty linear. Yes, there are like side secrets you can find and like kind of quests, but they're really not in depth at all. It really is a pretty A to B experience with stuff to find along the way. I would describe it more so kind of like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, that form of linearity. You do have the continent, which acts as the hub world, which has some secrets to explore, but they're very few and far in between. Once you get to the end of Act 1, you're starting to get a really good hand like about what's going on and also the gameplay, and you're getting addicted to both. Like, you get to this point where you really want to know what's going on, and you also just want to play the game more, and it is so addicting. I've never really experienced that where the story and the gameplay are so good at the exact same time to where you're just gonna not want to put this game down. And that's what happened to me. I think I beat this game in like, I think maybe 3 days. I was non-stop playing this game. I'll go as far to say that this game's story was so good that it's one of the games that I wish I got Men in Black. You know, they make you forget everything. Maybe not my whole life, but just about this game so I can re-experience it for the first time with no prior knowledge to it. It is that good, the story and the gameplay. And the soundtrack is also just beautiful. It is very classical, and whatever song is being played fits whatever's going on the screen so perfectly. I'm not going to stand out. I'm going to be the Glazer as well. This game deserved every Game of the Year award. I have not played KCD 2, which I know is basically like the game that people think should win over it, so sorry about that. Up until then, I will say this is one of the best video games I've ever played in my entire life. I will say my only gripe with the Game Awards with the Expedetion 33 is they gave this best indie game. Yeah, I get it. The core team is 30 people. Insane that they made this such a beautiful game and an amazing game with 30 people, but the budget was like $10 million fucking dollars. Compare that to Balatro, which is just some guy who's like dropped out of school or like in the middle of school, also just cooking up one of the best fucking roguelites ever. I mean, we need to like tighten up the definition of what a indie game is. Also, Andy fucking Serkis plays the bad guy. Like, that is an A-list celebrity. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love Andy Serkis. He plays 3 characters of like my 3 favorite movies of all time, but like, come on. But do yourself a favor, play this game right now. Don't get anything spoiled. Just jump right into it, and I promise you by the end of the game, it's gonna feel like watching a series finale of your favorite TV show. It's just like, oh man, like, it's really done, isn't it? And it might hurt your soul a little bit. It is also the 3rd best game we have talked about so far, just under Elden Ring, but above Breath of the Wild. Here we are. This is every Game of the Year ranked. This is our final list here. Again, don't take this. Obviously, you should never take my list seriously. I'm just a fucking idiot who talks on the internet. But these games are all at the very least good. Even the games like Dragon Age Inquisition being the bottom doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not my cup of tea. You know what? I know you're going to be pissed about Overwatch being so high. Yeah. Even I think this is kind of fucked up, but it's just how I feel. That's just where it stands. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, maybe consider subscribing because a lot of you aren't, and we can help change the statistic. If you want to hear me play and rank every Harry Potter game or every Fallout game, go ahead and click on screen now. And if you liked, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And thank you so much for watching.